How to fight against centralization. Have you ever found yourself facing an opponent who seems to control the center of the board effortlessly? Centralization is a powerful strategy in chess, but there are effective ways to counter it. Let's break down how you can fight against centralization and regain control of the game. First, challenge centralized pieces directly. If your opponent has a knight in the center, consider advancing a pawn to threaten it. For example, if the knight is on e5, moving your pawn to d4 can force it to retreat. This tactic is effective because pawns cannot move backward, so pushing them disrupts your opponent's setup without losing material. Next, you can control key squares indirectly. Instead of occupying the center yourself, use pawns to influence it from a distance. Placing your pawns on d4 or e4, or d5 or e5 if you are playing as black, creates a pawn wedge. This restricts your opponent's pieces while allowing your minor pieces, like knights or bishops, to pressure the center from the sides. Another strategy is to exchange centralized pieces. If your opponent has a strong piece in the center, such as a well-placed knight or bishop, consider trading it for one of your less active pieces. This reduces their positional advantage and can help level the playing field. If your opponent overextends in the center, look for weaknesses in their pawn structure. For instance, if they launch an early pawn storm, it might leave gaps in their defense. You can then launch a counterattack on the wings, targeting those weaknesses. Prophylactic moves are also important. Anticipate your opponent's plans to centralize. If they want to place a knight on e5, consider moves like f3 or f6 to block that square. This prepares you to challenge their central control before it even happens. Lastly, consider shifting the battle to the wings. If your opponent dominates the center, open lines on the queen side or king side. This forces them to divert resources away from the center, weakening their control and giving you opportunities to create threats. For a practical example, let's say your opponent centralizes a knight on e5. You can respond with d4 if you are white or d5 if you are black. This challenges the knight with a pawn. If your opponent retreats, you gain central space. If they capture your pawn, you can recapture with a pawn or piece to maintain pressure. Fighting against centralization requires a mix of direct confrontation and strategic flexibility. By combining pawn breaks, piece exchanges, and counterplay on the wings, you can neutralize your opponent's central dominance and create your own opportunities.